Hey toy fans, Aaron here. Today taking a look at the Walmart exclusive retro collection release of the Empire Strikes Back Lando Calrissian. Overall, the look of the card is stained with those worn edges being printed on there. I still don't like it, but I guess at least for consistency's sake, it's still there. Otherwise though, for that card, great reproduction of the original vintage line. Got the Star Wars Empire Strikes Back logo up top, Lando Calrissian's name, nice photo of him off to the side, and of course through the blister you do see the figure. Off to the right of that, same as what we had last year for the Retro Collection release, we get the same Retro Collection sticker. And then here's a look at the back side. Top half talks about the Star Wars Retro Collection being inspired by the 1980s line. This time around, you do not get the character artwork of the figures that are being released in the wave as we had with the initial release of Retro Collection figures, which you can see next to this one. I put a backside of one of the cards next to this. Just below that in the red, you're going to see a listing of the other figures that are available in this Retro Collection line, not including the Luke Skywalker that comes with the Hoth game. So same as last time, just sticking with the individual carded figures. And then below that is all your legal information. And now taking a look at the figure out of the packaging. Couple things to keep in mind as I review this figure. I'm not worried about how the sculpting looks in terms of comparing it with today's figures. This is meant to be a reproduction of a figure that was done in the 80s. And that's the merits I'm going to judge this figure on. Now, unfortunately, also, I never had this figure as a kid, so I don't have the original to do an in-hand comparison with, so all I had were photographs to look at online. And the final note, as with all of these original figures that I'm aware of at least, none of these are being done from the original molds. These are being reproduced from castings of existing figures. And with that, as we go in for a closer look at the head sculpting, that's where some of this is going to be evident. You look at an area such as the way the hair is being done, and while the sculpting is pretty darn close to what was done from what I could tell for the figure in the 80s, you're just not going to get those fine lines of definition with the way the hair was brushed. Now, by no means does it make for a huge detraction away from the way the figure looks. Those are just some of the subtle differences you're going to notice when you compare a retro collection figure to an original release. As far as the rest of the detailing goes for the head, things are looking pretty good. I gotta say, I never realized the odd smirk that this figure has. So it kind of makes it look a little goofy looking, but otherwise the painting that they did on this figure, hairline stand right where it needs to be, eyebrows look good, the eyes, even his mustache looks painted on pretty well. Outer cape for the figure, this time around the coloring is done in a lighter gray instead of a darker gray. Maybe that's an intentional decision to not interfere with a vintage collection figure. Otherwise though, the cape does seem like a pretty nice vinyl. It sits around the figure well, it hugs it nicely. Pretty much stays out of the way. As far as the chest and arms of the figure, I love the bright baby blue coloring being painted on. Seems like a pretty good match to the original. His hands are painted very nice and seems to match up with the skin tone of his face. What I'm not liking, I feel like could have used a second coat of brown, and that is the skin showing at the top of his chest. Some of that blue color is bleeding through, so another layer in there certainly would have helped match that color better. Otherwise, black painting around the collar of his shirt looks very nice, staying right in the lines where it needs to be. The soft, subtle ruffles and folds within the shirt are showing up quite well. Detailing within the belt buckle is looking quite nice. You can certainly make out the various small lines running on the outside of the buckle and kind of some squiggly lines there in the middle. Otherwise, that black painting is looking good. And then we get down to his pretty sharp looking dark blue pants. Looks like it's got a nice crease going down the front and then just a little bit of a wave as you get to the kneecaps of the figure. And then that same color blends in for his shoes. As for articulation, no surprises here. Head spins all the way around. You get your 360 at both shoulders. Your legs go straight out, in fact even a little bit higher, but nothing back. As for accessories, he comes with a single Bespin blaster. Would you call it Bespin blaster? Why not? That's what I'm going with. Detailing to it seems, again, judging by photographs, very much like the original. This time though, it is all black and not blue. Happy to say though, this time around, so far at least for this one figure I've opened, this figure has no problem holding on to the weapon. It stays very well in his hand, his right hand, so definitely a good thing there. So overall for me, like I said, I didn't have this figure as a kid growing up. I didn't have a lot of these vintage figures growing up, actually. So I love that Hasbro's been doing a retro collection line. And for me, while it might not be, the exact match or ever be that exact vintage figure, I'm still happy to have something that's pretty darn close to the original. And, fingers crossed that Hasbro keeps pushing these out and remakes the whole line. I'd really like to see that. So that wraps this one up. Definitely let me know what you think of this figure in the comments section below. And as always, thanks for watching.